Do you ever feel stuck in negative thought patterns? Like no matter how hard you try, you just can't seem to break out of a funk?
Today, we'll share the simple things you can do that can retrain your brain to look for the positives and develop gratitude so you can get out of your own way and stop feeling like shit all the time. Like me. But first, this is the Fit Mess, where together we learn to develop habits that help us live beyond our mental health struggles to create happier, healthier lives.
He's Zach. He lives in the future with his anxiety.
He's Jeremy, and he lives in the past with his depression. And we get together once a week in the present to share the obstacles we face and how we overcome them.
That's so Zach, you and I, we've been in our own funks lately, as we have prominently displayed on the show in ways that I don't think we really have in years. So that's been really interesting, and we've been hearing from a lot of people with a lot of support. That really means a lot. You can do that. You can reach out to us through our website, thefitmess.com. But our guests today have had battles of their own, including, loss of purpose, loss of identity, depression, limiting beliefs, all the stuff that so many of us struggle with every day. All those garden variety traumas that plague so many of us. But they've lived through it, and they've come out the other side stronger and empowered to help others do the same.
That's right. Some of the things that we've talked about on the show recently is our own battles and the ups and downs. I have been struggling for a little bit. Work's been tough. Life has been tough. All the things have been tough, like just lots and lots of things. Any one of them, not a super huge deal, but you put them all into the same pot and you turn the burner on high and you've got a recipe for catastrophe. And things are better. I mean, the problems are still there. The work stress is still there. All the things are still there. But instead of, just living through that and feeling like a victim and not dealing with my shit, I've been working on taking time for myself, making sure I'm getting the exercise I need, the mental exercise I need, the meditations, all the breathing, all the things that we talk about, all the things that I know and love that keep me sane and healthy. And that's it, man. Like you gotta put the work in. Like you don't just get magically happy overnight. You gotta work on it. And it's a choice you wake up with every single day. And you know what? For a couple of days, I made the wrong choice where I was like, you know what? I'm going to feel like shit today. I'm not going to go to the gym. I'm not going to meditate. I'm not going to do these things because woe is me. You know what? I made a different choice. Now we're better. Now I'm better. I'm happy. I'm smiling. Yeah. Shit's still there. Yeah. But you got to make that choice, man. You can't live like that.
And I don't want to speak for you here, but I know for me, when I was sharing pretty vulnerably some struggles I was having, venting, we've talked about this a bunch, that like complaining, whining about it has its place, but it also has an end. And the purpose of it, to just get it off your chest, to give it some space, to give it a place to land, is powerful, but without taking the important next step of, so how am I going to fix it? It kind of becomes a cyclical thing that you do over and over again. So you have to go into the sessions like you and I have shared with the intention of, I need to find a way out, either through just making space in my head to think something else other than these horrible thoughts, or to hopefully get some feedback from, a trusted advisor that can help me see things a little differently.
And you got to go even a step further than, how am I going to get out of this? I will listen to anyone vent and complain about anything for a while. So long as what comes out of their mouth when they're done venting is, and here's what I'm going to do about it. Not find it, like you just pick something and you do it. And if that doesn't work, you do something else. If that doesn't work, you do something else. But just complaining and not doing anything about it, what's the definition of insanity? Right?
Yeah.
I'm excited to tell you about one of my favorite podcasts called The Newsworthy. It's one of the most efficient ways to stay informed on a daily basis that will seriously change how you think about news. If you hate the constant barrage of news alerts on your phone, arguing pundits, opinions, and misinformation, and all those anxiety-inducing clickbait headlines you see now, you've got to try this podcast. It's an independent journalist who left her career with mainstream media to launch her own show. Her team does all the hard work of reviewing and researching what's going on across a variety of sources from both sides of the aisle. Then they bring the most important and interesting stories together in one convenient place. I'm talking 10 stories to know each day in just about 10 minutes. The variety of news is impressive too. I feel so well-rounded after every episode. Just search The Newsworthy in your podcast app or go to thenewsworthy.com to start listening. Again, search for the podcast, The Newsworthy. 2 words, The Newsworthy, to make staying informed easier and more enjoyable every weekday.
Okay, so since I've picked myself back up and done all the things that I've wanted to do, our guest today, the name of their show, High Vibing It. I love that. So like as I've been picking myself back up and doing all the things that I need to do, like I've been walking around the house going, I just high vibed it. Like I'm getting myself back up there. I love the name of this show.
And it's a great show, especially the one I was on without you, because for some reason you couldn't attend, but I was lucky enough to be on their show.
The vibe on that one was definitely higher, for sure.
But our guests are the hosts of that show, High Vibing It, Kelsey Aida and Lindsay Robinson. Together, they help people unlock their full potential by clearing limiting beliefs, aligning their energy, and creating intentional, empowering mindsets. And we started our conversation by asking Kelsey about her own claim that she has conquered depression. I had to know how she did it.
I think I put it in that verbiage because it really felt like a win when I was able to dig myself out of the hole. Because the depressive episode started in my late teens, early adulthood, and it was really like the perfect storm of hormonal imbalance, not knowing how to process my feelings, not having like deep intimacy with other people in my life, like having people around, but not having like the deep connection that I needed. And I was basically really injured. I was on track to be a professional dancer, but I hurt my back, I hurt my hips. And so like my whole life goal was like basically crushed. And I fell into this depressive episode for like 3 years, and it happened slow, so you don't really notice. But then like one day you're like, what happened to me? I used to like things. I used to like life. I used to have hobbies. I used to like people. And now everything's just miserable and horrible, and I want out. So in the depths of the despair, I was like, I have 2 choices here. I can figure out how to enjoy my life again and get better, or I can probably just be on the timeline of suicide. Like nobody wants to live like this forever, including me. So like, I'm going to get out, or I'm going to figure it out. So I kind of set an ultimatum to the universe, and I was like, universe, what's a homegirl got to do to get some help around here? Like send the resources, send the perspectives, the information, the healing, the people, whatever I need to get better. Like I am ready to learn how to like really thrive in life and enjoy it to the max. And of course, as I asked, my prayer was answered, and I was able to find the right help, the right podcasts, the right perspectives, the right books, the right teachers to honestly change my lifestyle and my mindset and get better that way. Because I was kind of anti-medicine at the time. Not that I am for everyone in all cases, but I wanted to do it like the achiever, hardcore way, like get yourself out of the depression type way. And I was able to with the right mindset shifts and spiritual tools. And really something that helped me the most was starting a gratitude practice, because it helped me to rewire my neural pathways to look for everything that was right, everything that was working, things that I could be grateful for, even though I didn't feel grateful for anything in the beginning because I was like wanting to die. So yeah, did that answer your question?
Yeah.
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I am curious. I don't want to dwell too much on this, but can you talk a little bit about the tools? Like what were the actual applications that you used to dig yourself out?
So one was actually processing my feelings and getting in touch with the sadness instead of trying to avoid, push it away, suppress it. I was just exploring like, okay, what am I actually sad about? And like validating the part of me that was really upset, and allowing myself to process that through tears, through movement, dancing. Like that looks different for everybody, but processing the sadness, validating that, allowing it to exist, not judging it and not making it mean anything, right? Because it's very different to be like, I'm experiencing a depressive episode, I'm really depressed, versus like, I'm a depressed person and that means like I'm going to be miserable forever, right? So not attaching those negative meanings to it, just letting the sadness live, because emotions know how to process themselves. So doing that by myself, but also with facilitators, because it's hard when you're new to emotional practices. So emotional practices like that for processing and healing, the gratitude practice, a lot of meditation, a lot of movement, physical movement, sunlight's important for me, diet, like literally from every aspect. I was like, okay, we got to revamp the system.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like an awful lot of work, personally. I mean, I'm just saying it's a lot. So, you know, I kind of want to kick it over to Lindsay and, you know, talk about mindset a little bit. Like, you've got to get yourself into a different headspace in order to go down those roads, right?
Yes. And just kind of when you're in that space that Kelsey describes, I mean, we've all kind of been there to some extent of that. Like, what do I even do? Like, how? What do you mean? I just want to lay here, which, can also be therapeutic to an extent. But at some point, I think the best way to start would be just to like put your feet on the floor. Okay. And now what do I do? I actually just put out an Instagram reel, and I don't ever do this, Kelsey knows, but I was sharing like this one really hard day that I had. I woke up and I was just like, I don't want to do nothing. I feel so heavy. And I know that depression is different, but we all have days. And I just put out, here's what I did. I stood up, I brushed my hair, I washed my face. I ended up stretching because that moves energy, anything to move the energy. And it doesn't have to be big. I mean, what Kelsey's describing sounds like a lot, but it really is just a lot of very small things that we can all begin to do. And when you can start small, they lead to like, oh, I actually feel a little better. Maybe I could go take a walk outside. Oh, that felt really good. Maybe I could do some exercise or listen to some music that I really like. Where first waking up, the thought of putting on music or like dancing, no, thank you.
Yeah,
but I think the key is
one moment at a time.
Yeah.
So like you do one thing and that leads to the next.
One moment at a time, and you will find your mindset kind of expanding. You'll find your willingness to do better and better things getting better and better. And the thing that I love about subconscious work, we all do conscious work all the time, but we know we're doing it. The thing with subconscious work is you don't know that a change is being made until you find yourself up against the same situation that you used to have all the time, but now you're thinking differently. Now those neural pathways are taking a different route, a better feeling route that you didn't even know how it happened or when it happened, but because you were taking these small steps and because you kept doing the conscious work, that became subconscious, and it doesn't really feel hard anymore. I mean, it always kind of feels hard, but the hardest stuff begins to feel easier. You get better shocks on your car.
Those small steps that you're talking about, I've used this analogy before, so I'm going to, sound like a dad here for a minute. Have you guys have you seen Frozen 2?
Of course. I've got kids.
So when Anna is in the cave and she thinks Elsa has died and everyone has her world has crashed.
Yes.
There has never been a more accurate depiction of what depression feels like for me. Like I was sobbing. I was like, oh my God, I feel so seen right now. Like this is so incredible how they captured this.
Yeah.
And how she starts talking about just doing the next right thing became my mantra. After that, I was just like, whenever I'm in that state, it's just like, what is the next thing I can do that moves me forward out of this? Because every part of your being, no matter how much how full your toolbox is of all the walks and meditations and lifting and cold therapy and all the stuff, you're just like, it's not worth it. What's the point? Why I'm going to be like this forever? So Lindsay, that's where I want to stay with you with the sort of the wiring underneath and what you're able to do to help people sort of unravel that, to move through that and to find a way to just start doing the next right thing when every part of their being says not to.
Well, yes. And I'm going to go back to kind of why subconscious work is so powerful. Any kind of subconscious work. And I'm going to give a few examples because it's not always hypnotherapy. That is a very good one. That's a great one. You're in a nice, dreamy, floaty state. You're very receptive. Your subconscious is, ears perked up, listening to everything and taking it in. Other subconscious work could be like if you wake up in the first 30 minutes of your day and the last 30 minutes before you fall asleep, those are what we call the magic 30-minute windows where your subconscious is very receptive and awake. So any kind of work that you're doing in those magic windows has a higher likelihood of getting into your subconscious versus the middle of the day, 2 p.m. when you've just had your second cup of coffee. But if you're doing anything in those windows, it's very potent. Affirmations, affirmations if you're writing them down and if you're using the right way to do them. Kelsey and I know we're talking about this all the time, but people that kind of just recite out loud, like I am, thin. I am healthy. When you don't believe it, sure, it's not doing nothing, but your subconscious knows that you don't believe it. So it's like, but what are we even talking about? But if you were to say something like, every day I become healthier in every way, or I am open to my most healthiest state of being, that just feels different. It feels like, oh, okay, well, we can get on board with that. It's like cracking the door possibility versus like running through when you know that it's not true. Your mind, your body, your subconscious knows that you're lying, and it's going to react that way. So it might feel harder. So finding the right way to word affirmations is very important. Also, writing them down. Handwriting is a direct line to your subconscious mind. It's something that we do without thinking about it. It is by definition, a subconscious behavior, an automatic behavior. So if you're writing these things down, that's why journaling is so important. But if you're writing things down, it just kind of gets that direct communication a little bit more substantial, I guess. It works. It just works. So write it down. Write it down is it's a lot easier, and you can feel the shift versus like, I am healthy. Write it down. Maybe write it down in a
no,
different
I'm
way,
not. Every part of me knows that's nonsense. Yeah.
Or maybe you're just not the healthiest that you want to be, but that's what you need to say. I am becoming the healthiest version of me. I'm becoming healthier every day, or I feel my most authentic self more and more every day versus like, I'm 100% there right now. Right. Anyway, so that's one really powerful way to work with your subconscious. Meditation it can be another form of hypnosis if there's an objective. So if you're doing a guided meditation where there's an objective of feeling healthier, that's hypnosis. Sorry, it just is. Not sorry, actually, because hypnosis is fantastic. But any kind of like trance or meditation or hypnosis or trance-like state that you can get yourself into to kind of reinforce things that you'd like to believe, focusing on your self-talk and the thoughts that you're giving yourself every day, huge with subconscious work. If you can focus and like observe the thoughts that you're having about yourself, about your situation, how you feel about that, and dig into like, does that feel good? If it doesn't feel good, what can I say, or how can I change that wording to feel better? What would I like to believe instead? And just observing it really without judgment, because that's a cycle that we don't want to get into. We don't want to judge ourselves for judging ourselves. But just observing without judgment and kind of trying to find something that feels better to you will begin. Like, this is all beginning to rewire your brain. That's what we're doing. We're just rewiring the old path that you've trodden thousands of times that feels like crap. We know what that feels like. Let's try this and see how it goes, because it's just way better that way.
Yeah. So I love all of that. I mean, I had one myself where I was like, I'm going to be richer every day, but I forgot to add on my bills will not get more expensive. So that didn't work well.
Be specific.
Yeah.
I know. You got to dial it in. So I kind of want to shift a little bit. I want to hear more about your podcast, High Vibing It. I love the title. I love the name. It's fantastic. I want to know who came up with it. And how did you guys meet and get together? Like, how did this all start?
It does start with me. I'm not going to brag about it, but it is kind of like.
But it was all me. Yeah.
I started it. So
I know how much it hurts to pat yourself on the back. I do it all the time. It's just you start to get sore. It's hard.
Well, and the thing is, I was very reluctant. So in just a very short story version of it is I hired a business coach in 2017, and she's like, you have to do a speaker summit. You have to get all these speakers on a panel. You got to do this 3-day long thing. And I'm like, no, don't want to, don't like it. Don't want to do it. But she's like, you have to do it. So I looked for experts, and I really wanted to find somebody that talked about manifesting, because that was like a huge theme. So I found Kelsey. She's like, I don't know. She asked me to this day, like, how did you find me? I was like, I don't know. I Googled it, manifesting coach. Your blonde bob with red lipstick popped up on my screen. That's exactly what it looked like. And so I was like, she looks fun. And we immediately became.
Imagine relying on a dozen different software programs to run your business, none of which are connected, and each one more expensive and more complicated than the last. It can be pretty stressful. Now, imagine Odoo. Odoo has all the programs you'll ever need, and they're all connected on one platform. Doesn't Odoo sound amazing? Let Odoo harmonize your business with simple, efficient software that can handle everything for a fraction of the price. Sign up today at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com.